we're starting on time. This is the College of Complexes, and this is our 458th meeting since we started in February of 2009. We put a different speaker on every week. Our speaker must be for or against something. He has an hour to make a presentation, or she. And we prefer not to be interrupted. Save your questions for later, and then there are, you have a chance to speak after the speaker speaks for rebuttals or anything that you want to say relative to what the speaker said, preferably. Does anybody have any announcements they want to make?
Yes, we only listen to one pool at a time.
Okay, very good. That's right out of Tom Berry's mouth. As far as any announcements I would make, Philosophers Forum is meeting on the 14th of May at the El Phoenix on Forest Lane and Webb Chapel, not at Skillman. We moved because the location at Skillman is closed. You will not find anyone there if you go there. And the topic is energy. So anyway, our speaker tonight is Robert Montoya, who has taken it upon himself to be aware of what's going on in the Texas legislature and inform us of what is going on there. He's a correspondent for Empower Texans, and he's going to be speaking about where Taxpayers stand so far relative to what is going on in the Texas legislature. And there's another announcement I'd like to make here. Last week, the management talked to Tom and asked him to tell the group that if you want the lights turned up or down, or the sound turned up or down, or something like that, please talk to the moderator and let the moderator take the message to the restaurant. They were getting very confused with different people going to them and asking them to change things up or down or sideways or in or out or whatever it was. And
I think demanding was the better word.
Yeah, well, that would be appropriate. So anyway, so if you're not happy with the temperature or the lights or the sound or whatever, talk to the moderator, and the moderator will take the message to the restaurant. So with that, I would like to welcome Robert Montoya to the podium.
Sir.
You're welcome.
Reason number 4,000, I need to lose weight so I can get around places easier. All right, I'm going to do, there we go, this, so I can see my notes. Well, hello everyone, it's good to see you all again. I'm Robert Montoya. We met a couple months ago, and let's say it's good to see all of you again. I actually kind of prefer it when it's a more intimate setting, because it feels more like a conversation. So, as I've told you before, I work for Empower Texans. We are about fiscal responsibility and transparency in the state and local level in Texas. We keep an eye on what's going on in Austin during the legislative session, and also try and keep you all informed of what's going on at the local level in your local governments through our publication, Texas Scorecard. Right here, and I have a few copies back there by the silverware. Feel free to take a copy home with you. So yes, when Tom Berry asked me to come back, I was trying to think, okay, so what am I going to talk about? Because there were so many things happening at once, I didn't know exactly what to say. So I decided to pick, okay, I'm going to follow up on how the legislative session has gone so far at that point when I come back. And boy, do I have a story to tell all of you. So we have less than a month before the session ends, unless Governor Abbott wants to call a special session for some reason. And this is where we are now. So first off, when I first came here to speak, the thing I spoke to you all about was property taxes. How bad things are and they're getting worse. In fact, a report came out from Adam Data Solutions that showed that in the year 2018, the state of Texas had the third highest effective property tax rate in the entire United States. That the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex had property tax increases much higher than the national average, 8% compared to 3%. And I shared with you all last time, some data we pulled from the appraisal district, I'm not gonna go over it all again. I don't want to bore you guys. But again, you know, City of Dallas's portion of the average property tax bill over 5 years went up 43%. Irving, 43%. Mesquite is in the 70s, over 5-year increase. Independent school districts are, you see problems just as bad. Dallas ISD is about, if I'm reading this correct, yep, 63% over 5 years. So, I mean, that's an effective summary. This is a big problem, and it keeps getting worse. So, what we've been pushing for, and what's been the big thing taking center stage throughout all of Austin this session has been property tax reform and relief. I'm just going to really just briefly go over what the difference between the two. Reform is controlling the growth of your property taxes. Relief is you keep more of your money than you did last year. You pay less in property taxes. So, I know according to the rules, I have to say before or against something. So what I'm going to say is, essentially my against, what they've come up with in Austin, what they're telling you is relief, this isn't property tax relief. And I am against it. Now, to get there, let me tell you where we are when it comes to property tax reform. The Senate and all property tax reform is basically they're going to, goal is set a certain point where when your local governments, your cities, your counties, your school districts try to raise your property taxes above that certain point, an automatic election is triggered where you have to give permission whether or not they can raise your taxes that much. The Senate passed Senate Bill 2, which set that point at 3.5% more than the previous year. Election triggers at 3.5% for most cities, counties, and they decided to also make it 2.5 for school districts. That went to the House, and the House passed an amended version of Senate Bill 2, which means now they're both going to have to talk with each other. What the House decided was, okay, yes, 3.5% election trigger for cities and most cities and counties, but 2% for the schools. Now this was a reversal because the House had originally decided, you know, we're going to carve out school districts entirely from this, which was ridiculous because when you look at most property tax bills, they take up the biggest portion. Well, they thought, okay, 2%. But we're going to exclude hospital districts and junior colleges. But the interesting thing is, they also said, but this will only pass into law if House Bill 3 passes. So even if me and the Senate both agree and the governor signs it, they put a little clause saying this only passes if something we like called House Bill 3 passes. So what is House Bill 3? This is what they call property tax relief. And I'm going to tell you why it isn't. So, right now the state of Texas has a surplus of $9 billion. That means they've taken in $9 billion more dollars than they thought they would. So they've got this huge, treasury sitting there like, wow, $9 billion. So what they decide to do with it? Well, they decide to spend most of it. That's what they decide to do. Now, here's something you have to know. The school district property taxes are the one part of your property tax bill that Austin can have the most influence on because the way it's set up, Austin contributes to the schools and the schools also take money through property taxes. And whether the system should work this way or not, basically the way it works is this. The more the school districts take in property taxes, the less Austin has to contribute. So the strategy was, the thinking was, okay, we're going to take Austin's money, it's the taxpayers' money, but Austin's going to pour more money into the school districts to buy down your property taxes. So, of that $9 billion, they decided to spend in House Bill 3, which they said, this is the relief. This is the big thing. They decided to spend only 30% of it on lowering school district taxes, which is a less than 3% reduction over 2 years. Why does the 2-year thing matter? Because the legislature only meets every 2 years. So once they're done, in May, unless they have a called special session, that's it. And even one of the bill's own crafters, one of the people who have crafted, said the relief's not going to be significant. So, and the rest, the other 70%, where's that going? Just growing government spending. All right, yeah, here it comes. Just growing government spending, that's all it is, growing general government spending. Not going to relief for you. So, time's passed and a lot of voters have been calling. I mean, we've been reporting on this and voters have been calling. So they realize now, like, oh, the session's almost over, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do to try and lower property taxes? You wanna know what their grand plan is? The new thing is just the big idea that the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the Lieutenant Governor come together, and he gave a press conference yesterday saying, this is the plan. They're going to raise sales taxes. Yeah, I know, right? Our plan to lower the school taxes to raise the sales tax. We're gonna raise it even more. We're gonna raise it by 1 cent. So the thing is like, well, if we raise it, we can channel that money to the school districts to compress the rate. But here's the problem. What they're proposing, not all of that's gonna go to the school districts. It's not gonna be a 1-for-1 swap. A portion of it's going to go to, a percentage they say is gonna go to teacher pay, which means the net effect of this is going to be just a general raising of taxes. Now I want y'all to think about this. You have a Republican governor, Republican Speaker of the House, and a Republican Lieutenant Governor. And if this goes forward, what's the record they're going to run on in 2020? We raise taxes. Does that sound like a winning message at all? No. But they're running around and they're saying, this is the property tax relief, but all the data says it's not going to be. Former State Representative Matt Rinaldi said, Tennessee has no state income tax. State of Tennessee has no state income tax, like we do. And their property taxes are about a quarter of what they are in Texas. Their legislature is keeping spending effectively flat, lowering taxes, and just passed educational savings accounts. Texas is planning to spend its surplus and raise the sales tax. So compare Tennessee and Texas. Who would have thought? Yeah. So, what's the solution here? What's the solution? Where do we go from here? So as I said, I'm against this because this is not property tax relief, and we shouldn't be talking about raising taxes. What we should do, the solution here is, we all need to start calling our state senators and state representatives. Time's running out, and for whatever reason, the clock has just been running. They've taken so long to do anything significant. So we need to contact them and demand the 2.5% voter approval rate for all local taxing entities. And Senate Bill 2, that should be decoupled from House Bill 3, the supposed property tax relief. And even though they decide we're going to spend this $9 billion surplus, because the session's not over, they've not touched that money yet. They can go, quote unquote, back in time and fix what they did. So we should say, use that surplus and buy down the property tax, the school property taxes. Don't use most of it just at gross spending. Give most of it back to us, because it's our money. And finally, we should also tell them, no sales tax increase. And I'm astonished that in spite of some of the outcry that's happening, yesterday, again, you can see the video yourself, press conference, Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and Speaker of the House Dennis Bonnen, all three Republicans said, yeah, we're going to go forward with the sales tax increase. This is our plan. We are committed to this. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So that's right now where you, the taxpayers, stand. So I know this is this is probably the shortest talk you've ever had. But again, that's what we are. That's what I encourage all of you to do. And again, my position on this, I'm against this. This is not property tax relief, and I am more than welcome to rebuttals to this, and I'm looking forward to have a conversation. For everyone else, as you all know, if you would like to receive in your inbox our publication Texas Scorecard, just give us your name, zip code, and email address, and you will receive free of charge our newsletter. We keep you up to date with what's going on in Austin and also what's going on at the local level in Texas in your backyard. And also I encourage you to check TexasScorecard.com tonight, because we're going to be monitoring local elections. In fact, I got to leave here after everything's done to go start checking what the results are and start reporting. So thank you all very much.
I have a question for your comment on the assessment game that they did this last 2018. I don't know if you're familiar with this. You probably are, though, I'd say. They said Toyota was coming in. Toyota was putting a plant here, so property taxes went up throughout Dallas County. And some of the raising the property tax is quite ridiculous. I can say on my property it was.
Yeah, so are you saying that because Toyota came, that's affected property taxes going higher in my?
That's what they told me down at the assessment office.
So this is something that's interesting. I'm gonna clue you in on a little, who here has ever heard of Mayor Richard Newton? He's the mayor in Colleyville, and actually he's facing re-election today.
Mayor.
By the way, all of you,
Richard who?
Richard Newton? Yeah. He's up in Colleyville. By the way, remember, if you haven't already voted, I hope you voted today. Because
yeah.
today is local, all right. How many y'all voted?
How about him?
All right, good.
Try that.
So, this thing about, I'm just gonna quote Mayor Newton. I may not quote him word for word, but roughly this is what he said when I was talking with him in the interview. He said, for elected officials, it is both convenient and easy to say, oh, well, you see, I have no control. See, the appraisal district, they're raising the value of your home like crazy, and they're a separate organization, and so they're the one raising your property tax. You have to go yell at them. Mayor Newton, who by the way is probably one of the most hated mayors amongst mayors in North Texas, said, that's all hogwash. See, here's the truth. The appraisal district, they do not set your tax rate. Your local governments, your cities, counties, school districts, junior community colleges, hospital districts, they set their tax rates. And they all have the power, they have this tool to lower the tax rate enough to offset all increases of appraisal value. That's called the effective tax rate. And that's what the city of Colleyville adopted under Mayor Newton's leadership. So the idea that just go blame the appraisal district, no. The local governments, they're the ones who choose to tax you. They set your tax rate. They can lower it enough to offset any increased value so you don't have to pay anymore. Just few of them do that on a consistent basis. That's the problem. Yes, sir.
It's a little sidebar, this is not my real question, first, we'll see.
Okay.
Do you happen to know offhand that as a percentage of the total revenue produced by the Dallas County Tax District or statewide, as a percentage of the revenue you raise in a year, what does it cost the nation? Is it 5% of revenue, 10%, 30%, 1%?
So make sure I
Is that clear? I mean, now, having a blackboard, I could be easier, but anyway. Yeah, tell me what you think I asked.
So, yeah, just make sure I understand what you're asking. You're asking me, of all the revenues, tax revenues local governments take in, particularly Dallas, how much is the cost of collecting those that the administrator incurs? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, what's it called, the Dallas County Appraisal District?
Yeah.
The money that is raised through them, that's X $100 million, maybe it's $1 billion, I don't know. It's X $100 million. Okay, it costs something. You have to buy that building, or you have to rent it. You have to pay utilities, you have to pay salaries and materials. So that's one number. So if you put that number in the numerator, and the number of the total money they raise in the denominator, what percentage, does anybody know what that percentage is?
So when you say money they raise, are you talking about the taxpayer money that the state of Texas assigns them, or are you?
No.
Okay,
Well,
because the appraisal district, they do not collect taxes. They set values. It's your local taxing entities. That's the official title for cities, counties, school districts. They're the ones who take in the tax. They collect the taxes.
The total, whoever it takes, I see, whoever it takes, whatever the total take is, you know, give me your money or I'll blow you away and take your house. Okay, that's a number.
Yes.
As a percentage of that, I mean, how much does it cost to run the appraisal district?
I do not know, so I'm not certain. If I had to guess, and I could be completely wrong off of this, the appraisal district could have, because a lot of local governments publish something called the Certified Annual Financial Report, which lists basically where the money's going, what the costs are, how much they're spending on what. It is possible, I am not certain, but I would theorize that having looked deeply into it, that most appraisal districts also produce their own CAFRs, and so you could potentially find out that way.
What is a capital?
Again, that is the,
Comprehensive annual financial report.
Most local governments publish those. I would theorize, but I could be wrong, that the appraised district publishes one as well, so.
Okay, is it possible to separate all the cost of administrating ad valorem taxes? Never mind, I'll ask you that later. I'll ask you.
No, sure, no.
Okay, I pardon everybody, but we need to have a little lesson on microphone usage here. These microphones have a rejection zone. If you're holding them up towards your face, you're getting about 100% of what you're putting into the microphone. When you bring the microphone down like so, then you're getting 50% or more rejection. So the angle of the microphone to your mouth and your speaking is a very important thing. And yes, I was comprehensive annual financial report. I believe they're required by law to produce those.
Okay.
Okay, who's got it?
Sometimes I get mixed up whether it's comprehensive or certified. I've heard it both.
You were talking about Tennessee, they pay no income tax,
That's,
and they have low, I don't know, what is their sales tax?
I don't know what I don't know all the numbers. I was quoting former state representative Matt Rinaldi,
Yeah.
and he was saying that their property, he didn't bring up their sales tax rate, but he was comparing their property taxes to ours, and he was saying that their property taxes are just a quarter of what ours are in Texas.
Do you know any more about how they manage to do that? That'd be
Well-
interesting to find out.
According to him, the quotes from him, he says because the legislature basically keeps spending effectively flat, they're apparently very fiscally responsible and conservative.
Yeah.
So that's coming from him. I personally have not looked at it deeply, but I trust Mr. Rinaldi.
Oh, yeah.
He's been a pretty solid guy, but.
Wow.
Next question.
One topic that I do not hear mentioned in much detail, as called when it comes to ad valorem or property taxes, is homestead exemptions and other exemptions. In Texas, this is done by dollars. In other states where I have resided, it's done as a percent. It seems like the percent is more protective of the taxpayer, and that the dollar exemption can easily be wiped out by an increase in taxes. Is there any discussion, thought, or consideration being given to expressing exemptions like homestead exemption and other exemptions as a percentage of the tax bill rather than a fixed fee?
So, yeah, now that's a very good point to bring up. So, another thing I've talked about doing this session is increasing the homestead exemption again. They did that a couple of years ago under when Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick was still our Lieutenant Governor. They did that now. Here's the problem with the way they've approached it. When they've typically increased the homestead exemption, they don't index it so it adjusts for increased value in your home, which basically means that extra benefit is wiped out in no time. So you get a little bit of benefit for a short time, then it's wiped out because it's not indexed to adjust for increased appraisal values. So in order to make any increases in homestead exemptions become really beneficial over the long term, you have to index them to go with increased appraised values. Otherwise, it's just like a short-term boost, and it goes away shortly because the values just quickly catch up to it. So,
What do you look at besides property taxes?
Empower Texans, or
Yeah.
yeah. So some of the things it wasn't recently that we really started to dive deep into property taxes, but we also take a big look on bonds. I wrote a piece because Fort Worth's mayor, area where I live, Betsy Price, she was publishing advertisements for her campaign saying, "I cut property taxes," and I was like, well, I know part of the story. Let me really dive deep in, because I had not looked at, in the data I got from appraisal districts, I had not, gotten data from exactly when she became mayor. But I was also curious about, well, what's the debt been like since she's become mayor? Because as you know, bonds, debts, they're just another form of tax increases. Because someone's got to pay that back. Government That's the thing, if you get nothing else out of this, please understand this. Government has no money. You have money. They're only able to operate because of you. If you have a job or if you have income of any kind, they're able to take a portion of that to operate. If you have retirement, that money's coming in, that's how they operate. So what I did is we also take a look at bonds. And since Mayor Price became mayor of Fort Worth in 2011, Fort Worth's debt increased 30%, while the property taxes increased almost 40%. So that's something else we look about. We look at my boss, Erin Anderson, wonderful person. She's the Metroplex Bureau Chief. She's written a slew of articles on so many bonds throughout the DFW Metroplex. We're talking about bonds in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars they're adding on. And most of them are from these school districts, but when you really look at it, it's like, does it have to cost this much? And also, all this money, I mean, we're gonna have to pay it back at some point, and this is gonna take more of our income. So that's another thing we look at. We also take a look at, how is your money being spent? So Frisco, this will be my last example. Frisco claimed that they couldn't, when it came to taxes, they were like, well, we're gonna need more police officers. So we looked at their CAFR, their sort of comprehensive annual financial report, and found out they were hiring just general bureaucrats, administrators, at the same rate they were hiring police officers. So if really they have a great need for more emergency personnel, they could just focus hiring entirely on the emergency personnel and not instead of hiring general government administrators, because if the need is there, they have the power to adjust for it. So that's just a snapshot of some of the things we cover. There are a whole lot of other things we cover that could take me a while. But that's basically our bait.
Okay.
That's my ballpark right there. Fiscal responsibility and government transparency. That's what we look at.
With regard to municipal and other public bonds, you know what a sinking fund is?
I'm aware of the sinking fund. Now, check my definition, because sinking funds, I understand, they're basically like a savings account. The more money you put in, it grows and grows and grows, and you use that money over time. Am I correct in that?
Well, bonds that have a sinking fund provision have, it means that every time you pay interest, you set aside a little money that will grow to pay off the principal at the end of the term.
Mm-hmm.
That makes the bond much more secure for the investor.
Mm-hmm.
And it should lower the interest rate to the bond borrower, the municipal entity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if any bonds in Texas have sinking funds, or if y'all ever thought, or would you give consideration to requiring sinking funds?
I can't speak exactly to that because I am not sure, so I don't want to speak out of ignorance. But that's definitely an idea that is worth exploring.
Well, let me give you an example. We had
Sure,
something
yes.
here in Dallas County called Dallas County School District, which was run by a bunch of political frauds. One of who's spoken here, who was about a 6-month stay at home, and we'd like to run him out. We'd like to tar and feather and run him out of town. But they got off into something called, they started investing in these school bus light systems or whatever, and they lost a ton of money. They refinanced some of their property and lost it. So now the taxpayers have to pay off that debt. But if they had sinking funds on their bonds, the sinking funds and a default insurance would have paid off, and the taxpayers would have been off the hook. That's an example for us right here, and it doesn't get much publicity. You should talk to Don Huffines.
Love Don Huffines.
He would be able to fill you in on the details. And I think, I'm a quantitative person, so I like to go through the numbers, but I think that would be a wise and prudent thing. And to put some kind of cap on the amount of bonds and indebtedness particular school districts have. Right over here, you may know what, you know what the Park Cities area is in Dallas?
I believe I do.
You know,
I've been in Dallas quite a bit, but I think I know what the area you're talking about.
University Park and
Yeah.
Highland Park
Got it. Yes.
are
South of Northwest Highway on the other side of the freeway, on the west side of Central.
It's good seeing you again, by the way.
Hi, you too.
They are upper income, no problem with it. They unfortunately are a victim of the Robin Hood thing. And they don't have any problems raising money for their schools. But they do have an extremely high debt on indebtedness ratio. And some people over there are concerned about it, but the public faces ignore it. We have the same thing happening here in Dallas County, on the Dallas County Community College District. They want to raise $1.02 billion for monument construction, and there's been virtually no publicity against that. Is your organization capable of raising money to fund, during an election cycle, to fund informational advertising so people understand what the issues are?
Well, I can't speak for the CFO of our organization, so that's a CFO question, and it's also a question for our president. What I can tell you is that what we have been doing is we have been pushing to our subscribers a petition opposing the sales tax increase. So that's something we will tend to do, is push things like petitions that we will deliver to lawmakers in Austin saying, this is what the taxpayers are saying, they do not want this. We've got right now quite a few people who've signed on for the opposing the sales tax. We've got quite a few people on that petition. So, and if you'd like more information where you can find that petition, let me know, and I can probably forward that on to Tom.
I'm not sure that I'm against sales taxes, but I'm willing to discuss it further.
Sure is, we should all have discussion.
I have a friend who is campaigning for me to go back down to the county assessor's office and explore the issue. Is there anything, is there a tax break once you are over 65, over 66?
In terms of property taxes?
Property tax.
As I understand, a lot of local taxing entities do have a cutoff point where once you're over 65, your property taxes don't increase.
Oh, well, that sucks.
They stay you still have to pay them, but they don't increase. But we had a property tax town hall in Colleyville where this elderly lady broke down crying in front of us saying my property taxes keep going up, when really they shouldn't be, but she says they keep going up. I wonder whether or not I can keep my home. So no matter what age you are, this problem is affecting everyone. Everyone.
So is it the county
Hold
determines?
on, Jan.
That each county determines how they handle the tax,
So when it comes to your property tax bill,
and the different decisions break it down.
So this is how your property tax bill works. Your total property tax bill, wherever you live, is decided by a number of entities, some of which will take me too long to list. But you have your local tax entities decide, when they add up together, what your total bill will be. Who are these local tax entities that make up your property tax bill? Your county, your city, your school district. You also have hospital districts, junior community college districts. Where I live in Tarrant County, we have the Trinity River Water District. That's the water district board in Tarrant County. They collect property taxes too. So they all take a piece of the pie and you add all the money together, multiply each rate that they set. It's multiplied by how much the appraisal district says your house is worth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You add all the numbers together from those multiplications and you get your total property tax bill. Yes. And mind you, each one of them, each one of these entities have the option of adopting the effective tax rate, which offsets any increase in property values. So they don't make any more money than they did last year. And you should roughly pay really no more in property taxes to that entity that adopts it than you did the previous year. Again, the problem has been too few of them adopt it on a consistent basis, which is why we've been seeing these skyrocketing property tax bills. They're making a killing lately.
You mean if they don't do anything, then that's...
If they don't do anything, if they just leave the property tax bill where it is, then as your appraisals go up, they walk around and say, we didn't change the tax rate, we didn't raise your taxes. Well, by doing nothing, yes they did. See, again, this is a game that gets played. If they really want to stop that, they adjust the tax rate to offset the property value increase. And too many of them just sit around and say, they don't, like, oh, I didn't touch the tax, we didn't touch the tax rate. We didn't vote to raise your taxes, we kept it the same. But by doing nothing, the value goes up, you pay more, that's the end result.
So is that by county or by?
Again, so it's by each, and unfortunately, this is,
District.
it's very complicated because it requires involvement in so many local governments. Going to your county commissioners to talk about their property tax rate. Are you gonna offset values? Your city councils, are you gonna offset the
They all
increased
have a
values?
percentage.
Your school district, going to school boards, are you gonna offset the value? Hospital districts, community colleges, I mean,
Are they all in the same timetable to set it for the year?
so I can't speak for a lot of them, but I can tell you, your local elections, today's May 4th. After today, that's when they start talking about the budget, which they should pass in August. So in August, roughly around that time, they're gonna vote on setting their budget, which includes setting the tax rate. Now, mind you, they've already gotten most of the work on the budget done by this time. It's now mostly just a formality, but I'd say, after today, now's the time to start showing up and messaging your councilman and saying, hey, are you going, so this is what the appraisal district said, are you gonna lower the tax rate to adjust? And if they say, well, no, you have the effective tax rate, you can do something. If you do nothing, I pay more. I don't like that.
I will not vote for you.
Yeah.
And if you're just elected, I will start a recall movement.
There you go.
Another question.
Oh, the subject came up about age 65. I think there is a discount that I think I was told that, but I don't remember knowing
There
what
is.
amount it was.
Yeah, as I understand, most of them do have, 65 is a cutoff point where you shouldn't start paying more property tax. Was my explanation clear enough for you, by the way? Okay, because this stuff gets so complex, I know.
Just imagine.
It's tough to break down and make it easy to comprehend.
My question is by necessity, we have to have parts two.
Okay.
You said the limit was, it was at 2.5%, and it was going up to 3.5. But I recall reading or hearing someplace that they changed it to where the maximum annual increase is back to 2.5%.
Okay.
Are you aware of that, or?
So what we're encouraging people to ask for is 2.5% for all local taxing entities. Where we are right now, the House passed an amended version of what the Senate passed, which basically is the voter approval rate, the rate where an election is automatically triggered, is if your cities or counties and most other taxing jurisdictions try to increase your property taxes above 3.5% more than last year. They've set it at 2% for school districts and are excluding hospital districts and junior colleges. So that's where we are right now. And so now the Senate and the House are going to discuss, okay, what can we both agree on? And the House has said, by the way, this will only pass if you pass House Bill 3, the supposed, alleged property tax relief, which I've gone through with you here, is not going to deliver significant relief. It's just growing more spending. Spending all that $9 billion surplus.
Okay. Part B of this question is, you kind of alluded to it, whether this is a 2.5% or 3.5% cap on the annual increase, does it only apply to cities and school districts? What about the other upteen little districts? Is there no cap on their increase?
So again, real quick, it's important to know, this is not a cap. How many of y'all ever heard of the Texas Municipal League? Okay. So for those of you who don't know, essentially it's an entity, and if you watched back in February, this is an association of cities paid for by your tax dollars that goes up and lobbies against you. And they organized most of those city governments to go up to Austin and tell legislatures not to let you have a say in your property tax, to completely oppose property tax reform. So to answer your question real quick, what they propose right now, what they're both working on right now will affect, it's a 3.5% trigger. They like to say cap because cap And that's not accurate. A cap's an idea like this is as far as you'll ever go. No, it's a trigger because if the elected officials make a strong enough case to you, the voters, that this increase in your property tax is necessary, and you agree with them, your majority will probably vote for it, which means it'll go through. So this is not a cap, it's a trigger. That's all it is. It's a trigger. It can still happen. They can still propose to raise property taxes as high as they would like. It's just over a certain limit, they have to ask you for permission. The limit that the House and Senate are going to talk about is right now, the House wants 3.5% for most cities and counties and most taxing jurisdictions. They want 2% for the school districts. And there excludes hospital districts and junior colleges. So those are the ones that are excluded right now. Junior colleges and hospital districts, they would be the entities that would be excluded from this.
How do we get the message to our wonderful governor and lieutenant governor, who I voted for, that they are misleading us and ripped us off like damn liars? We want this change. No exclusions.
Well, I would encourage you to two things. If you agree with me that this is not that we need the 2.5 for all taxing entities. You deserve a say on this. All of you do. You deserve a say on your property taxes. You also deserve real property tax relief. Take that $9 billion surplus. Don't raise sales taxes. Spend most of it on buying down your school district taxes. That's what you agree with. Call your state senator, call your state representative, call the governor, call Lieutenant Dan Patrick, and tell them that's what you want. Go back, spend that surplus on me, on buying down the school taxes, not just from spending. I don't want a sales tax increase. And tell your friends to do the same thing. And if you're interested, I can also connect you guys with the petition we have started opposing the sales tax increase. You can sign your name, you can share with your friends, because we're going to deliver that to the legislators in Austin. We're going to hand deliver that to tell them this is what the taxpayers are saying, and you need to listen. So,
Any more questions?
Information to get in touch with you.
sure, yes. To get in touch with me, I can give you my email address, Montoya at Empower Texans, TEXANS.com. Montoya at EmpowerTexans.com, and I will connect with Mr. Barry and try and link him to the petition if you all are interested in signing that. So,
I would say very much so.
okay, we'll get that going for you.
Okay, so what are the ways that you are connected to online or groups or, okay, we're a certain number of people, we can
Talking to
represent
the
more,
mic.
we can represent more. Do I need to turn it
No, you need to raise it up to where you're
on?
talking.
Raise it up? Like-
Not that way.
I just speak loudly.
We just did, we just
Let
did
me just
let's
speak
not-
loudly, okay? I have a-
It doesn't get recorded.
Oh, it does not, then we'll do it
Aim
this
it straight out, aim it out.
This
There
way?
you go.
There you go.
Oh, like a singer. Okay. All right. So the thing is, there are a few of us. Okay. So what are the ways to multiply your message? In other words, do you have an online presence? I mean, I picture things like a Facebook page, and we could invite all our friends and organizations. How we can piggyback with other organizations to get the word out. How there could be a message that we could share with people in different ways, because the activists who are interested in this kind of things, and there are plenty who like a lot of different things like this, and they'll pick up on it, and I'm kind of that way. Online, when I see something, I share it. And so how can you plug into all of us who like to share all these things and make issues and bring them to the forefront?
Sure, absolutely, yes.
And empower us to be empowered Texans, right?
Hey, that's what we're about. So we do have a Facebook page. So those of you who use Facebook, we're also on Twitter too. Just search for Empower Texans, TEXANS. And also, we have a Metroplex group, a group just for this area, Dallas Fort Worth. You can become a member of the group, you can join in and become part of the conversation with other people, other taxpayers like yourselves who are concerned about the same issues. And when it comes to magnifying your voice, like I said, we've got our awesome Texas Torchbearers program where you become part of a community of activists across Texas. You're not alone, and we offer so many different tools to help magnify your voice. And we've got so many different things. So yes, I am more than happy to try and empower you and provide you all with these tools. So yes.
And since a lot of what you're talking about is the taxes for
For the
homeowners.
recording, please.
A lot of what you're talking about for effectiveness of getting the word out, a lot of us aren't necessarily homeowners, I mean.
Jan?
So,
That's very interesting you mentioned it before, if I may. Property taxes, by the way, don't just affect homeowners.
apartment renters.
So I've not done this data research myself, so I cannot say for certain with absolute certainty that this is true in Dallas-Fort Worth. What I can tell you is that in Houston, a partner of ours has done similar research looking at apartment houses and found that they're making a kill. You think these increases I mentioned right now are outrageous. They're making a killing on property taxes on multi-family housing units, apartment buildings. The increases that this friend of mine told me about, who's working down in Houston, made my jaw drop. Property taxes affect everyone. If you want to know why in the world is my rent going so sky high, that's why. And next year I'm going to try and pull data on apartment buildings as well, because this is just for homeowners, because I want to see is the same thing happening here, and if so, to what degree? So
How, are you saying that they're allowed to increase the property taxes that are part of the hidden rent more at a bigger percentage or something than homeowners?
from what our partner down in Houston the research he's done, the increases are larger than for homeowners.
Did you have a question?
And the ones who own the apartment complexes, they pass it on down to the rent, because if they just pay it themselves, they're gonna go out of business and shut the place down. So they pass it on down to the renters. So I'm gonna be doing research on that to find out to what degree this is affecting renters here in Dallas-Fort Worth, so I can have some solid numbers.
Well, we have several people who invested in real estate and multifamily dwellings. Mr. Beasley's not here this week, but I can assure you his taxes on his properties went up exorbitantly. You cannot always pass that on to the renter.
Yeah.
And that's another person I know who invested in real estate was caught in the same situation where it's almost not economical for him.
And as I understand, I believe there's no exemption for apartments. There's no homestead exemption for apartments. If I'm correct, if my memory serves me right, I don't believe there is. I could be misremembering, but
Where are property taxes the lowest in the United States?
for the United States, I don't know.
Do you know
States that
where
don't
they
have property taxes, I think there are only one or two of them.
where do they have the highest? You say we're third.
Yeah, we're the third. I forget which one's the first.
And the
But
second.
California, New York,
New York City.
Massachusetts.
I can't say for certain. I think New Jersey is somewhere up there. I don't know where, but the study I looked at was from Adam Data Solutions. And you can look at, in fact, you can go to TexasScorecard.com. I wrote the article. I just not remembering it all, where I linked to Adam Data Solutions, and you can see for yourself. Just go Google, go to TexasScorecard.com, and then search for Texas highest property tax rates. So.
Any more questions?
Put on your back.
How much, have you, it's my understanding, and occasionally I'll see things in the paper that seem to confirm this, that if you divided the percentage of ad valorem taxes between single-family homeowners and commercial, and you might want to subdivide the commercial between office building, retail, and multifamily. But anyway, over the decades, that the proportion, the percentage of the tax rate borne by the homeowner has dramatically increased. One reason for that is people who own commercial property, multifamily units, they have a bigger income, asset basis, and can afford to go hire consultants to lobby and to take out a Paul and Teen hammer you have to do and keep tax rates down at the appraisal district, which is fine. I mean, have you heard that? I mean, I'm a little bit surprised to hear this about Houston, but I used to live there, so I would love to see the data. I really would.
Sure. I can't speak to that directly because I don't know, but what you said triggered a memory. We published an article because something very interesting came out. The president of a local school board district in Tarrant County, someone did some data digging and found that the appraisal on her home has not really gone up. In fact, in some cases actually went down, which meant she didn't pay as much in property taxes as her neighbors. And on the same street, they compared home values of the same street of her neighbors. Theirs went up, but hers, for some reason,
You know, you raise a very interesting point.
And here's the key thing now, I'm not alleging anything at all. I'm saying I'm not alleging anything, but it's just that was just odd how hers would be that and her neighbors would be the opposite. You'd think if the market was that way for all of her homes, all the homes around her would see the same results, so.
In Texas, we call that, they don't pass the smell test, unquote.
I'm not alleging anything, I'm just saying that's just
Well,
interesting.
you raised a good point. Do you think your organization would be interested, willing, and capable of setting up a little, a standalone project to, starting in the bigger counties, go out and look at the property tax rate, taxes paid by elected officials compared to their neighbors? Now that everything is on the computer, I mean, it's not like you gotta fly there, you gotta travel to every county and go down to the records department. You know, that never occurred to me, but as sleazy as politicians are, it don't surprise me.
Well, I mean,
You're being polite, but I'm being correct. Why don't you are you willing to go out and see if there's any evidence to support that?
we're always interested in transparency and seeing and making sure that our elected officials are operating by the same standards that we are being held to. So,
Any more questions?
Yes.
Okay,
I don't mind.
let's make it our last one.
Last one, do you have to go someplace?
Well, you can ask questions. I'm here to talk. At some point later tonight, though, because I have to do reporting on the election results tonight, I will be going home and working on this. And so please go to TexasScorecard.com to find out about elections in your counties, because we'll be posting results. So,
Does the name Carl Parker mean anything to you?
yes, but not because of the Carl, because of the Parker, as in I'm remembering Colonel Tom Parker.
No.
So,
Carl Parker, I believe, is still living. He was the state representative from Port Arthur, Port Groves, whatever, PNG. He is, I think in his 80s, but he is the guy that started preaching the theme of, don't you want to have fairness, property taxes? He's the SOB. I don't tell him to his damn face that we no question about what SOB stood for, who started the county appraisal district system statewide. And that's what led to this abominable highway robbery by courthouse government and the taxpayers. I just don't know, if it'd be worth the time to remember how this got started.
I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there when I don't know the entire history of how the property tax system in Texas was set up.
Well, the one before this guy, it was a lot of people.
Quick sidebar here. As everybody knows, ad valorem is a Latin term, value added. Ad valorem. Now, back in the days of an agricultural economy, in the late 19th and 20th century up until maybe the 60s or 70s, the only time property owners, which were mostly farmers, paid a tax was when they had a crop to sell. That was called an ad valorem tax. value added to the land. No tax on the land, like we do today. And there was no, you only had to pay the tax if you had an income. If you didn't have any crops, you didn't pay any taxes. Then there was another type of property that had the lower tax when you sold the property. So there was real cash. Now, this was all covered in a series of newspaper articles in the Houston Chronicle back in the late 70s when I lived there. And you can probably get that if you've got people who go out and search the internet. And it may be held elsewhere. But what we call property tax today is just the opposite of what property tax was in the past. And what you run around and raise everybody's blood pressure by talking about the horrors of income taxes. That's what property taxes used to be. You only had to pay the tax when you had the income. That's a basic argument I don't hear being made.
I mean, I think we all agree, basically, property tax has gotten way too high and we have to do something. And that's why I'm here. And one last thing I want to let you all know. Since so many of you seem to be interested in the petition, even if you are already a subscriber to Texas Scorecard, if you'll please put your name, zip code number, and email address, I'll make sure each one of you individually gets a link to sign the petition. And you don't have to worry. Our system is set up where if you're already subscribed and you fill this out, you're not going to get 2 emails from us. It's designed to automatically filter that. And I would ask you to please share that petition with all of your friends because Austin needs to hear your voice. So,
All right, you get to sit down now,
all right.
and
Thank you.
you get one more chance later. So right now, everybody that has something to say in rebuttal or whatever is welcome to come up and say their piece for 5 minutes.
From rebut on Texas.
Well, yeah, I don't know if there's going to be any
Those
rebuttal,
taxes are
but if somebody's got
way-
something to say, you got 5 minutes to say it. Nobody wants to do it? All right, I've got something to say.
You go ahead and do it now.
All right, well, I've got something to say. Property taxes, I believe, are unconstitutional. Because basically what happens is you are renting your property from the state, and if you don't pay the state, they take your property, which means you don't own your property. It's a very fundamental equation and a fundamental understanding that a lot of people don't get. If you pay property taxes, you don't own your property. Because if the state can take it, you don't own it. So, the United States, from the time it was founded until 1913 or so, survived pretty nicely on import tariffs, export tariffs, and excise taxes. In other words, they're all indirect taxes. They're paid by people shipping goods to the United States, outside the United States, or paid on purchases that you made that were voluntary. In other words, if you didn't buy it, you didn't pay it. And the income of the United States, there's charged, it's very level for about 130 years. And as soon as income taxes came in, it started, the money that was taken in went way up. So it seems to me, and I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I'm sure there are other ways to fund government than property taxes. They need to be indirect. The Constitution clearly says that any direct tax, and this is by the federal government, will be apportioned among the states. And that means the federal government says the states need to provide X amount of whatever the federal government needs. Within the states, it's up to the states. But I just think property taxes should be deemed completely unconstitutional, and of course that would put governments in an absolute panic if that happened. But it would force them to do something constitutional to raise money, and perhaps they could get creative and local people could get involved and get some ideas about how to raise money to pay for government, which would force the government to behave, perhaps.
Ken.
Well, I agree 110% with what Ken said. Property taxes indeed are unconstitutional. You need to go back to the basic language that I just pointed out, ad valorem, which means value added. The damn taxing entities in this country, in this state,
Speak of,
charge people money for land that's sitting vacant.
I'll take your hand.
It is no value being created. But as a practical matter, I don't think we'll ever see it made unconstitutional, because if you take away the property tax, then there's a lot of government that's not going to be funded, and there are many constituencies out there. The reason government has gotten so big is because they have almost unrestricted access to our income and our assets. I'd like to meet with you,
Robin.
Robin, outside, because I lived in California for 10 years. And if you will recall, do you recall Proposition 13? That organization is still out there. I don't know how active there are, but they led the way 40 years ago. And that's one thing we could do here in Texas. The position we ought to take in Texas is, since the legislature has made income tax unconstitutional, either we need to remove that unconstitutional provision, or we need to add to it property taxes. And you have too many Republicans, and certainly in Congress, and probably in the state legislature, that have their own pet peeves and are not going to support not funding it. So I'm not sure what exactly to do, but I do have specific ideas about how we can play hardball with the taxing entities and create a lot of stuff. The only other thing I can think of is that we have to play hardball with legislators, senators and representatives when they come home in groups of 10 to 25. We need to establish meetings in their office and not be so polite and tell them if they want to get reelected, here's what we want done. And whether you vote for it or not, if it's not implemented, we're not going to vote for it. We're going to vote for someone else. So, but the excessive taxation is how you kill freedom and liberty and the ability of people to capitalize on their assets. Now, I'm not an artist, so I can't draw shit. But there are people that are to do that. Well, I have other talents, and you may have a third kind or a fourth kind, but what prevents us from maximizing that value is the, well, I'm trying not to be on screen.
Well, do speak up and up.
All right. And we do, the other thing that I didn't get to, I know I asked too many questions, is back to school taxes. When I mentioned to you about the increase in load of taxes being carried by the homeowner, I also said or read that if you look at the individual school districts' income, what you see, or their budget, what you're seeing is that more than maybe 60 or 65% of it goes to non-classroom expenses. Why is that? We ought to look, it used to be, the legislature could and should impose, before you get any new taxpayer money, I'd say between now and 2 years from now, you need to get it to where at least 55% of your budget goes to in-classroom. And the rest of it, and they'll yell on the screen, so you set up a little committee composed of the Texas Education Agency, people out of the legislature, and other citizens who will review. You will tell the districts you put in prior times you're spending line by line. And if you're not having some funded, you tell us why that's important and why you need the money. If you can't convince us of it, then you have to cut that and shift that money
to the classroom expenses.
Amen.
Things like having $60 million stadiums for one school or one school district are not necessary. We have an independent school district system in this state, so within one county, you got a hodgepodge of districts. You don't need separate administrative offices. You don't need a separate human resources department. You don't need a separate financial department. You don't need a separate payroll department. These are all expenditures that are duplicative and could be consolidated. So, if you read it, you can me, I don't think you hear on a lot of things.
Anybody else? All right, I guess you get the.
How do they justify it because of the big size of the budgets?
Beg your pardon?
How do they justify having those many different instead of consolidating? Is it because the
Well,
budgets are so big?
Jan-
Let's let the speaker
Jan,
finish.
let the speaker.
Speaker summarize.
Well, thank you, and pleasure to be here. I think we can all agree, property tax situation is out of control. So I encourage you again, call your state senators and state representatives, call Governor Abbott, call Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, say, we want a 2.5% voter approval rate for all local taxing entities. Go to the $9 billion surplus, spend most of it, pour that into lowering school taxes, and no sales tax increase.
Amen.
3 things. And if you haven't, please put your name and email address on that form, on that table, and I will send you a link to the petition where you can sign the petition. We're gonna hand deliver to Austin saying you are against the sales tax increase. So,
And what is your email address again?
my email address is R, M as in Mary, O, N as in Nick, T as in Tom, O-Y-A, at Empower Texans, T-E-X-A-N as in Nick, S.com. And I'll also be sure to email you guys, not just links to the petition, but also to our Facebook group and the Metroplex Bureau groups, because it seems like you're interested in that, so you can join the community, so.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you guys very much, and
All
I
right.
appreciate you.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Did you get some grub?
Okay, that's it for tonight. So I think our guest has some things to do. So if you want to stick around for a little bit, I'm sure people might want to talk with you a little more. That's basically it. So you're welcome to sit around and talk till about 10:30. And other than that, we're done.